right, so let's continue to see if we can um, look at trend analysis. We want function to be able to determine seasonality, linear, upper bounds, and then lower bounds, or upper limit and then lower limit, and then for us to understand. Now, these are dates. We have different dates here. Uh, as we can see, a particular season, so 31st March, so 30th June, that's about quarterly report, you see, all the way up to the year from 2021 2024. And these were the sales, let's say, in Ghana cities. I actually got this data from another YouTuber. I think if you have, you can subscribe to his YouTube channel, Kenji. I will try and put his what is it, his account, or what is it, in the description box so that you can follow. You can subscribe to his channel as well. So if you look at this particular data, that we have here, so we can see that we have some cells when it's like quarterly reports, and then we want to check for the next years, let's say 2025, 2026, and 2027. How is the cells going to look like? And so I simply just added this part, and then I decided to pick it as, so that's the new date, and we want to be able to check how the sales is going to look like, forecast how the sales is going to look like after 2024 using 2024 four figures or sales report to actually predict 2025, 2026, and 2027. Now, let's come to look at something. In forecast analysis, we have the linear and we have seasonality. The linear is when we are assuming that everything is straightforward, like there's going to be increment all the time, but it doesn't work like that. So you make provisions for seasonality and all that thing. But let's first of all calculate this, the linear part of it. So we simply start with, as usual, and this is what I was saying all the while. You could actually highlight the whole of this. Just a minute, something. Just give me a minute. I don't know what. You could actually highlight the whole of this and give it a name. You can actually highlight and then give it a name, and then you are good to go. So I will simply come to this point and then give it a name and say that's sales. Or I could give it a name as known wise or the wise. I can just put it wise and then tap enter. Then I come to this side too, and then again, and then come to this point and call it X. That's my X's. Tap enter, it has been named. Now, if I come to this point, I don't know what this thing is doing over there. Yeah, so if I come to this point, I think there was something wrong here. Yeah, so let me correct this. This was the point I said I have to call it wise. Okay, yeah. And then, yeah, X. So that's fine. So I'm going to come to this point and now say, I want to say forecasts. So when you type forecasts, you notice we have several of them. So this is the one we are looking for. Forecast.linear. And use your tab key. It's going to ask for the X value. The X value is this one that we are actually going to forecast. And then it's going to ask me of my known Ys. Remember, I just saved the whole of the cells as Ys. So I'm simply going to call it Y. And you can see my Y's are down here. So I'll simply click on that and use my tab key to complete it. And you see that it will highlight that particular range. And then my X. So I'll also type my X over there, and you see the X's are down here. And then I'll use my tab key to complete. You see that it also highlights the whole of the X's, which are here. And then that's all. I'll just tap it close. The reason why when you name the ranges in focus analysis is that it saves you the time of like fixing the cells here and there. Once you have named the range, it becomes fixed. It is fixed automatically, and so it helps you. So I can simply now tap this and then run up to this point, and then I am good to go. So what is it? We've calculated the seasonality, and now let's look at something. But this is linear, right? That's the linear forecast that we have done. I just assuming that there won't be any hindrance, everything is just going to go smooth. Like that's a whole lot of confidence. But since so let's insert a graph and look at how it's going to look like. You see that it's actually a linear function. Check. You see? Very straight, a very straight graph. But what about if there are instances we have booms, we have booms and we have lows, we have slumps and all of that. That's where seasonality comes in. And it's always important to make room for that. So again, we're going to use the forecasts. But in this case, we have one of the forecasts called ETS. It is the ETS means is actually one of the functions that is used to to determine seasonality. You can actually check for the meaning of ETS, but it's something about triple smoothing. So check what that means. I don't think it is necessary, but just know that this is the function that we use when we are calculating seasonality. So I will simply tap enter and then the target date. So this is my target date. And then ask of the values. What are the values? That are the Y's. So you simply tap your Y's here. When you start typing Y's, it should come. You click on it and use tab key to complete it. And then what are the timelines? That's the X. And my X is here. Use the tab key. And then now the rest in Excel, anytime you see things in brackets, square bracket, it means there are options. If you don't select any of them, it will choose the default. And so I'm leaving everything to default. And then that's all. And then tap enter. So you see that it has also done the calculation. I can now fill everything. And that's it. So now let's check something. The first one that we tried here, we inserted a graph. It was a linear one as we calculated. So now let's insert two graphs and let's see. So you notice that the seasonality can actually give you different seasons. You see that that's the one in red. There are instances you see that it is up, the cells are up, instances cells are down, cells are up, down, and then in that order. So that becomes the seasonality that we need to account for, and then in that order. Now, if we had left it at a linear, we would have not been able to account for the seasonality. But how many seasons are there? It's important. Somebody will ask, how many seasons are there if management want to plan? Okay, which season do we have the boom? So how many seasons have we seen in the data? What is the data saying? So to be able to calculate that, we can actually use a function. It's also in the forecast. And then that one, we call it the forecast.seasonality, which is here. And then we simply are looking for the values and the timeline. And the values are the Y's. So you can actually use function key and F3 to actually select your Y's here, which is also there. And your timeline is also the X if you want. You can, whichever way you want, you can always, and then close it up and tap enter. So we have 4 seasons. So the seasonalities have 4. So management will now know, okay, is it the first season where we have boom, the third season that we have? So if you plot the graph, you can actually see that it shows you that there are different seasons, booms, lows, booms, and then lows. Now, but at this particular seasonality, we can actually put a confidence interval calculation to it to be able to see whether maybe at 95% confidence, what will be the forecast. All right. So when we are forecasting and then we add kind of confidence interval or our confidence level, it makes sense for us to be able to know where we can actually determine our upper limit and our lower limit. Just this is just like at what confidence do we think we have this? So let's add some confidence interval to it and then see what will happen. So I'm going to say equal to the same forecast again, but here we are using the forecast ets dot confident. So that's, you simply click on that and use the tab key to complete it. Again, it's going to ask me the target date, and this is the target date that we have. And then ask of my values, as say that's the y's that I keep talking about. And then ask of my x's, and then my x is also here. I've already, and use tab key to complete it. The rest, if you feel, then you can give it. So here we are talking about 95%. So I just put the 95%, and then that's 95% confidence interval. And then it calculates, it gives us this particular value. Then you can just drag it and it will calculate the rest for us. Now, to be able to find the upper bound, which means that when we forecast the seasonality, you know that we have booms and then we have lows. So if we are also going to consider that, we should be able to tell that this is the upper bound that at which sales is going to reach. It cannot go beyond that. This is the lower bound that sales is going to reach. It cannot go below that. And so that's where we have the upper limit and then the lower limit. Now, the upper limit is usually equal to the seasonal value, which we have here, plus the one we have calculated using the confidence interval. So plus the confidence interval here will simply give us the upper limit. So which means for any reason, if there should be some kind of providence where sales are actually going to go up in the rest of the years we are forecast from 2025 to 2027, the first quarter of 2025, we are going to have, this will be the most, the upper limit that we are going to reach, the sales we are going to make, 169,761. You cannot go above that. So what about in the worst case scenario? How can sales slow down with this particular years? That's the lower bound. So the lower bound is always equal to the seasonality minus the confidence that we were just having. So we take the confidence out and see what will happen. And then we simply now drag this down and then we are good to go. So this becomes our full focus and then we are good to go. So we have the seasons for, we have the seasonality where we have seen the data having lows and highs. I'm also estimating that no matter what, this is the highest we can go and this is the lowest we can also go. And this becomes a very reliable data that we can report to management. And so that is how we also do forecast analysis using the forecast function. And then I will stop it here. And then the next video, I will now be using maybe graph scenarios for you to see how that works. We also have instances where we use the graph, just only the graphs and then whatsoever. And then maybe how to use the forecast sheet and then in that order. So I'll leave it here and then I will check up in the next video.